right, Melissa Tichy is standing by from our money desk with your business news. And Melissa, of course, we reported yesterday that the Competition Commission referred a complaint against Sasol Gas to the Competition Tribunal for excessive pricing. What's the update today?
Yes, Ms. Jaco, just some background. This stems from 3 complaints and also consumers complaining that gas prices got very high. So we got some response from Sasol Gas themselves, and they say they are yet to formally receive the complaint referral from the Competition Commission, and that's the word from spokesperson Alex Anderson. The Competition Commission referred a complaint against Sasol Gas for excessive pricing to the Competition Tribunal this week. The Commission found that Sasol Gas hiked its price for natural pipe gas by up to 72% over the past decade. Sasol Gas is the only supplier in South Africa and supplies gas traders and end users through a network of pipelines. In a written reply, Anderson says Sasol Gas has challenged the Commission's jurisdiction to investigate the gas pricing complaints based on NERSA's regulatory powers under the Gas Act. This legal review application is currently pending before the Competition Appeal Court. Anderson says the outcome of the matter will determine the ability of the Commission to investigate the gas pricing complaints. So for more on this, we speak now to one of the complainants, the Industrial Gas Users Association of South Africa. Jaco is the CEO of this association. Good afternoon, Jaco. Thank you for joining us. So your members were charged an excessive markup of 55% over 9 years from 2014 to 2022. Could you share in brief the origin of your complaint?
The industry has for a long time held the view that there is a disconnect in terms of the gas pricing that is being charged together, in relation to Sasol's cost base and also the pricing that would have applied in a competitive environment. As you know, Sasol is a monopoly supplier, the only supplier of bulk natural gas into the country. We are reliant on that, or the market is reliant on Sasol supply. Now, coupled with that is also the role of the regulator, NERSA, which basically over the last 10 years, we have the view that NERSA has failed to come up with a methodology that basically sets pricing to reward Sasol on an equitable and fair basis for the cost that they've incurred and obviously the risk that they've taken in the market. So it's this disconnect basically that has led us to this particular point. It is also a subject, of course, of a constitutional court judgment in 2019, which certainly gave the regulators certain guidelines to say these are particular guidelines against which you need to set pricing. One of those are, of course, competitive pricing or pricing that would have prevailed in a competitive environment. And secondly, also, it needs to consider Sasol's cost, true cost, that is.
So the Commission found that Sasol Gas's excessive pricing to gas traders and industrial customers ultimately affected the pricing to the end consumers as gas traders and industrial customers generally pass these costs on to the consumer. So if you can explain to us to what extent did your members and we as consumers suffer over the past decade?
Correct. So the issue is really a broad economic issue. I mean, natural gas is a bulk input for many of our large manufacturing industries in South Africa, mainly in the Gauteng, Mpumalanga and KwaZulu-Natal regions. Now, it's literally bread and butter issues. On the one hand, you have literally bread bakeries that are reliant on natural gas. And on the other hand, it's things that we use on a daily basis. For example, packaging or the bricks that we build our houses with or the tiles that we buy, So it really cuts across. And it has been endemic or inherent in the cost structure of the economy for all these years. And naturally, those costs need to be passed on, for businesses to remain viable. So it is true what you say that the consumer is probably on the receiving end of this. Secondly, also, many of our members are exporting companies, and they need to remain efficient competitively on global markets.
So Jaco, I know you spoke earlier about NERSA, but who is now the correct accountable body and why weren't they held accountable? How could this have gone on for so long?
So NERSA started to regulate pricing in 2014. That's the pricing for gas. Prior to that, Sasol had basically carte blanche in terms of how they set pricing. from 2014, industry, let's call it methodology 1, that NERSA approved, basically resulted in a constitutional court judgment in 2019 that instructed NERSA to go back to the drawing board and come up with a second methodology applicable from 2014 to date. Now, that methodology was then adopted, and against our advice, and NERSA continued with it, it was a completely flawed methodology, to the extent that NERSA actually acknowledged that during the course of last year. So NERSA proceeded to, it's on the back of that methodology that Sasol, many of our consumers or gas users will remember that Sasol proceeded to increase price by 96% during the course of last year. We then approached the Competition Tribunal Court for an urgent interdict. That then resulted in Sasol challenging the jurisdiction, to your point, the jurisdiction of the competition authorities in this matter. That judgment of the tribunal was made in May of this year, and the tribunal made two judgments. The one was interdicting Sasol to increase prices for the next 6 months. And the second one is to basically say that the competition authorities do have jurisdiction. Sasol continues to challenge that, and that matter is now up for a hearing at the appeals court. It is true there is concurrent jurisdiction between NERSA that sets a maximum price and then the competition authorities.
Yeah.
The one doesn't necessarily mean that a gas supplier can price at the maximum.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jaco, for your time. We'll definitely keep in touch for more on that. That was Jaco Human, the CEO of the Industrial Gas Users Association of South Africa.